Dr. Hyunwoo Park rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. The numbers and symbols still made no sense. He had been working on this alien signal for 6 months now, ever since it first reached Earth. Everyone called it the greatest discovery in human history, first contact with aliens. But something felt wrong about it. The signal came from deep space, somewhere beyond the edge of the solar system. It was strong and clear, not like the weak radio waves scientists expected from alien worlds. This signal was meant to reach Earth. It was sent directly to them. Hyunwoo worked at the Seoul Deep Space Communications Center, a building full of computers and dishes pointed at the stars. He was the best at reading alien languages, even though no one had ever seen an alien language before this signal arrived. The government picked him to lead the team that would figure out what the aliens were trying to say. At first, everyone was excited. The signal had patterns that looked like language. It repeated certain parts like someone was trying to teach humans how to read it. World leaders made speeches about a new age for humanity. Scientists talked about sharing knowledge with alien friends. Children drew pictures of friendly aliens visiting Earth. But as Hyunwoo worked deeper into the signal, his excitement turned to worry. The patterns were too simple, too easy to learn. It was like the aliens wanted humans to understand this message quickly. That bothered him. Why would aliens make their first message so easy to read? Tonight was different. Tonight the patterns finally made sense. Hyunwoo felt sick as the meaning became clear. He read the translation 3 times, hoping he made a mistake, but the computer confirmed it each time. The message was real. He picked up his phone and called General So-Jin Kim. She answered on the first ring. "General, this is Dr. Park. You need to come here right now." "What did you find?" So-Jin asked. "Not over the phone. Get here as fast as you can, and bring me Young Choi from the diplomatic team." 20 minutes later, General So-Jin Kim walked into the lab. She was a small woman, but everyone knew she was tough as steel. Behind her came Young Choi, who worked on peaceful contact with aliens. They both looked worried. "Show me," So-Jin said. Hyunwoo pointed at his screen. "I finally broke the code. The alien message is clear now, but it's not what we thought." Young stepped closer. "What do they say?" Hyunwoo took a deep breath. "They're not greeting us. They're giving us a notice, a harvesting notice." The room went quiet. So-Jin stared at the screen. "What do you mean, harvesting?" "They call Earth a resource acquisition zone. They say humans are primitive livestock. They've been watching us for thousands of years, letting us grow in numbers. Now they think we're ready to be harvested." Young's face went white. "That can't be right. Check it again." "I've checked it 50 times. The translation is correct." Hyunwoo pointed to different parts of the message. "Look here. They list Earth's resources: water, metals, and biological specimens. That's us. We're the biological specimens." So-Jin sat down hard in a chair. "What else does it say?" "Their harvest fleet is coming. It launched when they sent this signal. They expect to reach Earth in 18 months. Hyunwoo's voice shook. "They say the harvesting process will take 6 months to complete." "Harvesting process?" Young asked. Hyunwoo looked at his notes. "They divide humans into categories. Some will be taken as workers, others will be used for biological research, the rest will be processed for organic compounds." The words hung in the air like poison. So-Jin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Seoul glowed with millions of lights. People were living their normal lives, not knowing what was coming. "Are they telling us this as a warning?" Young asked. "Maybe they want us to prepare or negotiate." Hyunwoo shook his head. "No, this isn't a message to us. It's a notice to other aliens in their empire. They're telling them that Earth is claimed. Other alien ships should stay away until the harvest is done." "How do you know that?" So-Jin asked. "The message format. It's like a shipping manifest. It lists Earth's location, the expected harvest time, and warnings about livestock behavioral patterns. They mention that humans might be more aggressive than typical specimens and recommend enhanced suppression protocols. Mi Young sat down next to So Jin. Enhanced suppression protocols? Military action. They expect some humans, to fight back, but they don't think it will matter. Haiyan Wu pulled up another part of the message. They've done this before, many times. The message mentions 12 other worlds they've harvested in the past century. So Jin's hands turned into fists. 12 other worlds. Entire civilizations. Gone. Hyun Woo's voice was barely a whisper. And now it's our turn. The three of them sat in silence for several minutes. Outside, the city continued its normal rhythm. Cars moved through streets. People went to late dinners. Children played in parks. None of them knew that aliens were coming to take them away. We need to tell the president, Mi Young said finally. We need to tell everyone, So Jin replied. Every government, every military, every person on Earth. Hyun Woo turned back to his computer. There's more. I'm still translating parts of the message. They have detailed information about our military capabilities, our population centers, our technology levels. They've been studying us very carefully. What do they think of our militaries? So Jin asked. Hyun Woo read from his translation. They classify human military technology as primitive but numerous. They note that humans have excessive territorial instincts and high aggression coefficients. But they don't see this as a real threat. Why not? Because they've faced aggressive species before. According to this message, aggressive behavior is common among primitive livestock. Their standard suppression protocols handle it easily. So Jin stood up and began pacing. What kind of suppression protocols? Electromagnetic pulses to disable, electronics, atmospheric toxins to weaken resistance, orbital bombardment of military targets, then ground forces to collect survivors. Hyun Woo looked up from his screen. They've done this so many times they have a standard procedure. Mi Young was crying now. Billions of people. They estimate they'll collect about 2 billion humans. The rest will be eliminated during the suppression phase. Hyun Woo's voice was flat, like he was reading a weather report. So Jin stopped pacing. What's their timeline? The harvest fleet arrives in 18 months. They spend 2 months setting up orbital platforms, then 4 months of active harvesting. After that, they leave a monitoring station and move on to their next target. Next target? They're already planning to harvest another world after Earth. It's all very organized. So Jin walked to the door. I'm calling an emergency meeting. Every world leader needs to know about this tonight. As she reached for the door handle, Hyun Woo spoke again. General. Yes? There's one more thing. Something that doesn't fit with the rest of the message. So Jin turned around. What? Hyun Woo looked at his screen again. In their behavioral analysis of humans, they mention something strange. They say humans have unusual psychological recovery patterns and anomalous pack-bonding behaviors. They recommend extra caution during the harvesting process. What does that mean? I'm not sure yet, but they seem worried about something about how humans think or act together. Hyun Woo stood up from his desk. General, I think they might have made a mistake. What kind of mistake? They think they're hunting livestock. But what if they're wrong? What if they've never met a species like us before? So Jin looked out the window at the city again. Millions of people live their lives down there. People who loved their families, who would fight for their children, who would never give up hope. Maybe, she said quietly, maybe they have no idea what they've awakened. As So Jin and Mi Young left to contact world leaders, Hyun Woo remained in the lab. He continued working on the alien message, but now he was looking for something different. He was looking for weaknesses, signs that these aliens might not be as confident as they seemed, because 18 months wasn't very long to save the world. But it might be enough time to show these aliens that humans were nothing like the livestock they expected to find. 3 months had passed since Dr. Hyun-woo Park decoded the alien harvesting notice. The world had changed completely in those 90 days. Some countries tried to send peaceful messages to the aliens. Others began building weapons as fast as possible. Most people lived in fear, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. General So-jin Kim stood in a secret bunker deep under the mountains of South Korea. Around her, representatives from 20 different countries worked together on humanity's response. The bunker had no windows, but screens showed military bases around the world. Everyone was preparing for war. "Report from the diplomatic team," said Mi-young Choi, walking up to So-jin with a tablet computer. "We've sent 47 different messages to the aliens, peaceful greetings, offers to negotiate, requests for mercy, everything we could think of. Any response?" So-jin asked, though she already knew the answer. The same automated reply every time. "Processing schedule unchanged. Maintain distance from designated resource zone." Mi-young looked tired. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. "They won't even talk to us." So-jin nodded. She hadn't expected the aliens to change their minds, but they had to try. Now humanity knew where they stood. The aliens saw them as animals to be collected, nothing more. "What about the military preparations?" So-jin asked. "Better than expected," replied Jae-ho Shin, a former Special Forces soldier who now trained resistance fighters. "Every country is sharing their best weapons and tactics. We've never had cooperation like this before." That was true. The alien threat had united humanity in a way nothing else ever had. Countries that had been enemies for decades now shared their most secret military technology. Scientists who never talked to each other were working together on new weapons. The entire human race was focused on one goal: survival. "Show me the new weapon designs," So-jin said. Tae-young Lee, a young aerospace engineer, activated a large display screen. "We've been thinking about this wrong," he said. "Everyone wants to build bigger guns and faster ships. But that's not how humans fight best." So-jin looked at the designs on the screen. They didn't look like normal weapons. "Explain." "Humans don't win fights because we're stronger than our enemies," Tae-young continued. "We win because we're crazy. We do things that don't make sense to other species." Jae-ho stepped forward. "Take suicide attacks. Most intelligent species avoid unnecessary death. But humans will die to protect their families or their beliefs. The aliens don't understand this, so we use it against them," Tae-young said. "Look at this design." He pointed to what looked like a normal cargo ship. "It's filled with nuclear explosives. When an alien ship gets close, we ram it and detonate everything." So-jin studied the design. "The crew dies." "The crew volunteers," Jae-ho replied. "We already have more volunteers than ships." That was the part that amazed So-jin most. When word spread about the alien threat, millions of humans had volunteered to fight. Not just soldiers, but teachers, doctors, farmers, students. People who had never held a weapon wanted to defend their world. "What about the space defenses?" So-jin asked. Yoo-jin Nam, a nuclear physicist, walked over with her own tablet. "Project Prometheus is ahead of schedule. We're turning every satellite into a weapon. Communication satellites, weather satellites, even old space junk. Everything becomes a bomb when the aliens arrive." "How many?" So-jin asked. 15,000 orbital weapons so far. We're launching more every day." Yoo-jin smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "The aliens expect to find primitive weapons on Earth. They won't expect the entire space around our planet to explode." So-jin felt proud of her species. 3 months ago, humans were divided and fighting among themselves. Now they worked together, like a single organism, focused on one purpose. The aliens had made a mistake by giving them warning. "Dr. Park, what's the latest intelligence?" So-jin called to Hyun-woo, who sat at a computer station covered with alien symbols. Hyun-woo looked up from his work. His hair was messy, and his clothes were wrinkled. He had barely slept since decoding the first message. "We're intercepting. More alien communications. They're talking to each other as they travel toward Earth. What are they saying? They're worried. Hyun-woo stood up and walked to the main display screen. 3 days ago, we destroyed all their monitoring probes. In the solar system, every single one. They didn't expect that. The probe destruction had been Sojin's idea. For years, mysterious objects had appeared near Earth taking pictures and measurements. Scientists thought they were natural space rocks. Now they knew better. They were alien spy devices. The aliens are calling it unprecedented livestock behavior, Hyun-woo continued. They've never seen a species destroy monitoring equipment before. Good, said Jae-ho. Let them worry. It gets better, Hyun-woo said, pulling up a new translation. They're questioning their timeline. Some want to arrive early, others want to bring more ships. So Jin felt a cold fear in her stomach. More ships? Don't worry. They're arguing among themselves. Some think humans are more dangerous than expected. Others think we just got lucky with the probes. Hyun-woo looked at his notes. But here's the interesting part. They keep using the word anomalous to describe human behavior. Meaning what? Meaning we're not acting like other species they've harvested before. Other species tried to hide or run away. Some tried to negotiate. But no species ever started preparing for total war. Tae-young laughed. They don't know humans very well. Do they? That's our advantage, So-jin said. They're fighting their last war, not this one. Dong-min Kang, a computer hacker who coordinated global communications, walked up with urgent news. General, we just intercepted something important. The aliens sent a message back to their home world. What did they say? Dong-min showed them. His translation. Resource Zone 7741 Earth, showing increased resistance levels. Recommend revised suppression protocols. Local specimens demonstrating atypical behavioral patterns. Request guidance on enhanced pacification measures. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The aliens were asking for help. They were scared enough to contact their leaders. How long until they get a reply? So-jin asked. At least 8 months, Hyun-woo answered. Their homeworld is very far away. By the time they get new orders, they'll already be here. So they have to make decisions on their own, So-jin said. Exactly. And they're not sure what to do about us. Mi-young had been quiet during this conversation, but now she spoke up. What if we send them a message, not asking for peace? Something different. What kind of message? So-jin asked. A warning. Mi-young's voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. Let them know exactly what they're facing. Hyun-woo looked interested. What would we say? Mi-young thought for a moment. We tell them the truth. We're not livestock. We're not primitive. We're apex predators, and they just threatened our children. So-jin liked the idea. Can we send a message they'll understand? Yes, Hyun-woo said. I can translate anything into their language now. Then do it. So-jin looked around the room at all the humans working together to save their world. Send them a message they'll never forget. 2 hours later, Hyun-woo finished the translation. The message was simple and direct. It said, to the Harvest Fleet, approaching Earth, you have made an error. We are not livestock waiting for collection. We are not resources for your use. We are human beings, and you have threatened our families, our children, our world. This is something we cannot allow. We know you are coming. We are ready. We are waiting. Come and see what happens when you threaten the children of Earth. The message was broadcast on all frequencies, aimed directly at the approaching alien fleet. Within hours, they received a response. But it wasn't from the aliens. It was from deep space monitoring stations around the world. The alien fleet had changed course. Instead of the straight path toward Earth, they were now moving in a more careful pattern. They were taking time to scan ahead, looking for threats. They're scared, Jae-ho said, watching the tracking data. Good, So-jin replied. They should be. But the best news came 3 days later. Hyunwoo intercepted a panicked alien communication. The fleet commander was reporting to his superiors. Livestock specimens displaying apex predator behavior patterns. Request immediate guidance. Standard harvest protocols may be insufficient. So-jin read the message twice, then looked at her. Team. These humans had worked without rest for 3 months, turning their entire world into a weapon. They had united their species like never before. They had sent a message to creatures from the stars that humanity would not go quietly into extinction. 15 months until they arrive, So-jin said. Are we ready? Not yet, Tae-young answered. But we will be. They think they're coming to harvest livestock, Jae-ho added. They have no idea they're about to meet Earth's apex predators. So-jin looked at the star charts showing the alien fleet's position. Somewhere out there, creatures that had destroyed 12 other worlds were traveling toward Earth. They expected to find another easy conquest. Instead, they would find something they had never encountered before. They would find humanity awake, angry, and ready for war. The sleeping giant was stirring, and soon the aliens would learn what that meant. The aliens had moved faster than expected. What started as an 18-month countdown was now only 8 months away. But humanity had also moved faster than anyone thought possible. In the 10 months since Dr. Hyunwoo Park decoded the harvesting notice, the human race had transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. General So-jin Kim stood on the observation deck of the Luna Station, looking down at Earth. The planet no longer looked the same as it had a year ago. Streams of light moved between the surface and space as ships carried weapons and supplies to orbital platforms. The moon itself had been turned into a giant military base, covered with launch platforms and weapons factories. Status report, So-jin said to Tae-young Lee, who was now the chief engineer for Earth's defense systems. Better than we dared to hope, Tae-young replied, checking his tablet computer. We've weaponized everything. Absolutely everything. That was not an exaggeration. In 10 months, humanity had turned their entire solar system into a trap. Every asteroid between Mars and Jupiter now carried nuclear explosives. Space stations that once studied the stars were now armed with weapons that could destroy ships. Even the garbage floating around Earth had been collected and turned into kinetic weapons. The aliens still think we're primitive, said Dr. Hyunwoo Park, who had moved his translation work to Luna Station. Their latest communications call our defense preparations excessive livestock behavior. So-jin almost smiled at that. If the aliens thought current preparations were excessive, they had no idea what was coming. Show me the new psychological warfare protocols, So-jin said to Jae-ho Shin. Jae-ho activated a wall display that showed training footage from around the world. This is what we've been working on. The aliens have never faced an enemy that wants to traumatize them. The footage showed human soldiers practicing tactics that seemed insane to most military experts. Instead of trying to win battles efficiently, they were learning to win in ways that would break alien minds. Explain, So-jin said. The aliens have conquered 12 worlds, Jae-ho continued. Every time the local species fought normally, they tried to protect their military assets, preserve their cities, minimize casualties. Standard warfare. And that didn't work. Right. Because the aliens have better technology. In a normal war, they always win. Jae-ho switched to a new video. But humans don't fight normal wars. The new video showed human resistance cells practicing urban warfare. But these weren't normal tactics. The humans were learning to make every victory cost the aliens more than they could bear psychologically. We're teaching them to make the aliens afraid to win, Jae-ho explained. Every city they capture will be a nightmare. Every human they take prisoner will be a problem they can't solve. We're going to make conquest so horrible that they'll want to leave. So Jin understood. Most species fought to protect what they had. Humans were learning to fight to destroy what their enemies wanted. If the aliens wanted to harvest humans, humanity would make that harvest the worst experience of their lives. What about the space defenses? Sojin asked Yujin Nam. Yujin pulled up a display of the Earth-Moon system. Project Prometheus is complete. We have 47,000 orbital weapons platforms, but that's just the beginning. The display showed a complex web of weapons surrounding Earth. But Yujin was right. That was only the start. We've turned every asteroid in the belt into a missile, Yujin continued. The aliens will have to fly through a field of nuclear explosions just to reach Earth's orbit. And if they make it through the asteroid field? Sojin asked. Then they face the real surprises. Yujin switched to a new display. We've learned to hide weapons inside normal-looking objects. Communication satellites that are actually bombs. Space debris that tracks and follows alien ships. Even our space elevators are designed to fall down and take alien ships with them. So Jin had to admit she was impressed with her own species. Before the alien threat, humans fought each other over resources and territory. Now they work together with a focus that scared even themselves. Dr. Park, what are the aliens saying about our preparations? Sojin asked. Hyunwoo looked tired but determined. He had been intercepting alien communications for months now, learning more about their psychology with every message. They're confused, he said. They keep using words that don't translate well, but they mean something like insane or death-seeking. They can't understand why we're preparing to sacrifice so much. Because they don't understand humans, said Dongmin Kong, who had expanded his hacking operations to include alien computer systems. They think like a business. Everything has to make profit. Losses have to be minimized. Exactly, Hyunwoo agreed. When they harvest a world, they expect the local species to surrender when losses become too high. They've never met a species that would rather die than surrender. So Jin walked to the window and looked at Earth again. Down there, 7 billion humans were preparing for the fight of their lives. Children were learning to hide and run. Adults were learning to fight and die. Elderly people were volunteering for suicide missions. The entire species had accepted that they might not survive, but they were determined to make the aliens pay, a price they would never forget. There's something else, Hyunwoo said quietly. I've been analyzing the aliens' psychology based on their communications. I think they have a weakness. Everyone turned to look at him. Any weakness could be the key to survival. They're bureaucrats, Hyunwoo explained. Their entire civilization is organized like a business. Everything has procedures, schedules, expected outcomes. They've harvested 12 worlds, and every time it went according to plan. So? Tae-young asked. So they've never had to adapt. Never had to change their plans in the middle of an operation. They don't know how to handle unexpected situations. So Jin began to understand. And everything we're doing is unexpected. More than unexpected. Impossible, according to their experience. They've never seen a species weaponize their own extinction. They've never faced enemies who want to traumatize them instead of just defeating them. Jae-ho grinned. We're not just fighting a war. We're breaking their brains. Their latest communications confirm it, Hyunwoo continued. They're requesting new suppression protocols from their home world. But those protocols don't exist because no species has ever behaved like humans before. The room fell quiet as everyone thought about this. The aliens were coming to harvest humanity, but they were using a playbook written for completely different enemies. How long until their home world responds? Sojin asked. 6 months minimum, Dongmin answered. But here's the beautiful part. Even if their leaders send new orders, those orders will be based on their experience with other species. They still won't understand humans. Sojin felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not hope that humanity would survive, but hope that they could win. Status on the outer system defenses? She asked. Ready, Tae-young replied. We've moved weapons platforms beyond Pluto. The aliens will start hitting our defenses before they even know we're there. And the psychological warfare broadcasts? Broadcasting on all frequencies, Dong Min said. We're sending them human music, human art, human stories. Everything that shows we're not livestock. So Jin raised an eyebrow. How does music help us fight? Because they need to understand what they're trying to destroy, Mi Young Choi said, walking into the observation deck. She had been working on the propaganda broadcasts. We're not just showing them our weapons, we're showing them our souls. Our what? Our humanity. Every song about protecting children, every poem about fighting for freedom, every story about humans who died for their beliefs. Mi Young looked out at Earth. We want them to know that they're not just harvesting biological resources, they're committing genocide against a species that creates beauty. So Jin wasn't sure if that would help militarily, but she understood the psychological impact. The aliens expected to find primitive animals. Instead, they were learning about a species that wrote symphonies and painted pictures and told stories. About heroes who never gave up. 8 months, So Jin said, looking at the countdown display on the wall. Are we ready? We're as ready as we can be, Tae Young replied. The question is, are they ready for us? Hyunwoo looked at his latest translation of alien communications. No, he said quietly. They're not ready at all. Their fleet commander sent a message yesterday. It said, Resource Zone 7741 showing impossible behavioral patterns. Livestock specimens appear to be weaponizing their own extinction. Harvest. Protocols may be inadequate. Requesting emergency consultation with High Command. Emergency consultation? Sojin asked. They're panicking, Hyunwoo explained. For the first time in their history, a harvest operation isn't going according to plan. They're flying toward a world that's preparing to turn their victory into a nightmare. Sojin looked around at her team. These humans had spent 10 months turning their home system into the most dangerous place in the galaxy. They had united their species, weaponized their creativity, and prepared psychological warfare that would traumatize an entire alien civilization. Let them come, Sojin said finally. They wanted to harvest livestock. Instead, they're going to meet Earth's apex predators. Outside the window, Earth continued its preparations. The first alien ships entered the outer solar system on a Tuesday morning. They moved in perfect formation, just like the military manuals said they would. 300 vessels arranged in a pattern that had conquered 12 worlds. The harvest. Fleet of the Velthak Dominion had arrived at Earth, confident in their superiority and expecting an easy victory. They were wrong. General Sojin Kim watched from the command center buried deep under the lunar surface as her screens lit up with contact alerts. The aliens were exactly where human intelligence said they would be, moving exactly as predicted. 18 months of preparation had led to this moment. Outer perimeter defenses, report status, Sojin said into her communications headset. All platforms ready, General, came the reply from Commander Yujin Nam, who was positioned on a weapons platform beyond Pluto. The aliens just passed our first sensor line. They have no idea we're here. That was the first surprise for the Velthak. Their own sensors were designed to detect planets and large space stations, not the small hidden weapons platforms that humanity had scattered throughout the outer solar system. For months, human ships had been placing these platforms in the empty space between worlds, creating a defensive network that was invisible to alien technology. Dr. Park, what are the aliens saying? Sojin asked. Hyunwoo looked up from his translation station. Standard harvest approach communications. They're discussing orbital positions around Earth, collection schedules, and suppression timelines. They're not worried about anything. Sojin almost felt bad for them. Almost. All units, this is General Kim. She broadcast to human forces throughout the solar system. Operation Apex Predator is now active. Show our visitors what humanity thinks of their harvest plans. The first attack came from a direction the aliens never expected. Behind them, Yujin's weapons platforms, hidden in the dark between stars, opened fire with concentrated nuclear blasts. 12 alien ships vanished in balls of brilliant light before the Veltak even knew they were under attack. Direct hits on lead formation, Yujin reported. Alien fleet is breaking apart, trying to identify the threat, but that was only the beginning. As the alien ships spread out to avoid more attacks, they triggered the second layer of human defenses. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of rock fragments suddenly activated guidance systems and acceleration engines. What the aliens thought were natural asteroids were actually guided missiles, each one carrying enough nuclear explosives to destroy a city. The space between Mars and Jupiter became a field of fire as asteroidal weapons swarmed toward the alien fleet. The Veltak ships tried to shoot down the incoming missiles, but there were too many. Every asteroid they destroyed was replaced by 3 more. "This is impossible," came a panicked alien transmission that Hyunwoo translated in real time. "Livestock. Cannot possess orbital weapons. Request immediate tactical assessment." Sojin smiled grimly as she watched the battle displays. The aliens were learning their first lesson about humanity. Humans didn't fight fair. "Jae-ho, launch the boarding parties," Sojin ordered. From hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, human ships emerged. These weren't normal military vessels. They were converted mining ships, cargo haulers, and passenger transports that had been armored and weaponized. Each one carried a boarding team trained in the psychological warfare tactics that Jae-ho Shin had developed. The human ships ignored alien weapons fire and rammed directly into Veltak vessels. Normal military thinking said this was suicide. But humans had learned that suicide attacks could be more effective than conventional weapons, especially against enemies who couldn't understand why anyone would choose death over surrender. "Boarding Team 7 has captured an alien command ship," Jae-ho reported from his own vessel. "The aliens are having difficulty processing our tactics." That was an understatement. The boarding teams had trained for months to fight in ways that would break alien psychology. Instead of trying to capture ships intact, they destroyed everything that wasn't essential. Instead of taking prisoners humanely, they left alien survivors traumatized and terrified. Instead of fighting to minimize their own losses, they fought to maximize alien psychological damage. "What are the aliens saying now, Dr. Park?" Sojin asked. Hyunwoo looked pale as he translated the latest communications. "They're calling us death-seeking insanity and apex predator behavior. One ship commander just sent a message saying, 'Specimens display impossible aggression coefficients.'" The battle continued for 6 hours. By the end, 140 alien ships had been destroyed or captured. The remaining Veltak vessels were retreating toward the outer edge of the solar system, broadcasting panicked requests for reinforcements. But the most important victory wasn't military. It was psychological. "General, you need to hear this," Hanwoo said, playing a recorded alien transmission. The voice sounded terrified even through the computer translation. "High Command, this is Harvest Fleet Epsilon requesting immediate extraction. Local specimens are not livestock. Repeat, not livestock. They display apex predator behavioral patterns. They weaponize their own extinction. They seek death before surrender. Standard harvest protocols are completely inadequate. Request emergency. Military support. These creatures they are like nothing in the database." So Jin felt a moment of satisfaction. The aliens who had destroyed 12 worlds were finally afraid. But then Yujin's voice came through the communications system with news that changed everything. "General, long-range sensors are picking up something big. Really big. Coming from the direction the Harvest Fleet came from." So Jin looked at her displays. "What do you mean, big?" "I mean thousands of ships, not a Harvest Fleet. This looks like their entire military." The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. The Harvest Fleet had been just the beginning. Now the aliens were bringing their real weapons to Earth. "How long until they arrive?" Sojin asked. 4 months, Yujin replied. "Maybe less if they're in a hurry." Hyunwoo translated more alien communications. "The Harvest Fleet commander is telling his superiors that Earth needs to be eliminated. Not harvested, eliminated. They're classifying humans as a critical threat species. So Jin looked around at her command staff. They had just won humanity's first victory against the aliens, but it might have made things worse. Instead of facing a harvest fleet, they would now face an armada designed to destroy entire worlds. "What's the fleet size estimate?" So Jin asked. "At least 10,000 ships," Yujin answered. "Possibly more. They're bringing everything they have." Mi Young Choi, who had been monitoring diplomatic channels, looked up from her station. "General, I've been analyzing the alien command structure. I think I know why they're sending such a large fleet." "Explain." "The Velthak Dominion has been the dominant power in this region of space for thousands of years. They've never been challenged by a species they tried to harvest. If word spreads that humans defeated their harvest fleet, other species might start fighting back." So Jin began to understand. So they have to destroy us completely. Not just destroy us. They have to make our destruction so horrible that no other species will ever think about resisting. Mi Young's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "They're coming to make an example of humanity." Jae-ho, who had just returned from his boarding mission, walked up to So-jin with a grim expression. "General, I interrogated some of the alien prisoners. They confirmed it. The Dominion is sending their extermination fleet. They don't want to harvest Earth anymore. They want to sterilize it." So Jin looked at the tactical displays showing Earth and its defenses. Everything they had built was designed to make harvesting difficult and traumatic. But could it stop an extermination fleet? "How much time do we have?" she asked. 4 months to prepare for the largest military fleet in known space, Tae-young answered. "A fleet that's coming here with only one goal, to make sure no trace of humanity survives." So Jin stood up and walked to the main display screen. It showed the solar system with Earth at the center, surrounded by the defensive networks that had just defeated the harvest fleet. But it also showed the approaching threat that dwarfed anything humanity had faced before. "All right," she said finally. "They want to exterminate us. That means they're taking us seriously. They're afraid of us." "General?" Hyun-woo asked. "For thousands of years, the Velthak Dominion has harvested species like cattle. Now they're so afraid of one species that they're sending their entire military to destroy it." So Jin turned to face her team. "That means we've already won the most important victory." "What victory?" Jae-ho asked. "We've made them afraid. We've shown the galaxy that the Velthak can be beaten. Even if they destroy Earth, they'll do it as a species that's running scared from humans." So-jin looked back at the display. "And that fear will spread to every world they've conquered." Dongmin looked up from his computer station. "General, I'm intercepting communications from across the Velthak Dominion. Word is spreading about their defeat here. Some of their subject species are asking questions about human resistance tactics." So-jin felt a spark of hope. Even if humanity didn't survive, they might inspire others to fight back against the Velthak. 4 months, she said. The Velthak extermination fleet arrived in Earth's solar system like a plague of metal locusts. 12,000 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their weapons already charging for planetary bombardment. They had come to erase humanity from existence, to make an example that would keep other species obedient for millennia to come. General So-jin Kim watched their approach from her command station on Luna. 4 months of preparation had transformed the solar system into humanity's final fortress. Every human being alive was now part of the war effort. There were no civilians anymore, only soldiers waiting for their turn to fight. "Fleet status report," So-jin said to her staff. "All human vessels are in position," replied Tae-young Lee, whose engineering teams had built humanity's war fleet from converted civilian ships. 800 combat vessels ready for engagement. 800 human ships against 12,000. Alien warships. The numbers should have meant certain defeat, but humans had stopped caring about impossible odds months ago. "Dr. Park, What are the aliens saying? So-Jin asked. Hyunwoo looked up from his translation station. His hair had gone completely gray in the past year, but his eyes still burned, with determination. They're broadcasting a sterilization notice to the galaxy, declaring Earth a contaminated system that must be cleansed of aggressive specimens. Any word from their home world? High Command has authorized complete extermination. They're calling it protocol extinction, the complete elimination of a threat species. Hyunwoo's voice was calm, but his hands shook as he spoke. They've only used this protocol twice before in their history. So-Jin nodded. She had expected this. The aliens were so afraid of humanity that they were willing to destroy an entire star system to stop them. Jae-ho. Status of ground resistance? So-Jin asked. Jae-ho Shin looked up from his tactical displays. Every city on Earth is ready. If they get through our space defenses, they'll find 7 billion humans waiting for them. Every street will be a battlefield. Every building will be a fortress. But So-Jin hoped it wouldn't come to that. The real battle would happen in space, where humanity had prepared its greatest surprise. Yu-Jin, initiate Project Damnation, So-Jin ordered. Yu-Jin Nam smiled as she activated controls that would turn the solar system itself into a weapon. Project Damnation is active, General. All fusion mines are armed and ready. Project Damnation was humanity's most insane plan yet. Over 4 months, human ships had placed fusion bombs inside asteroids, comets, and space debris throughout the solar system. Not hundreds of bombs, not thousands, millions of them. Every piece of rock larger than a house between Mercury and Pluto now contained enough nuclear explosives to destroy a city. The aliens are beginning their approach, reported Dongmin Kang from his sensor station. They're moving in standard extermination formation, preparing to bombard Earth from long range. So-Jin stood up and walked to the main display screen. It showed the alien fleet spreading out around the solar system, taking positions that would allow them to destroy every planet, every moon, every trace of human civilization. All human forces. This is General Kim, she broadcast to every ship, every station, every resistance cell in the solar system. Today we teach the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's children. The battle began when the alien fleet reached Jupiter's orbit. Suddenly, the space around them erupted in nuclear fire as thousands of disguised fusion mines detonated simultaneously. The aliens had expected some resistance, but nothing like this. Space itself seemed to be attacking them. Direct hits on 200 alien vessels, Yu-Jin reported. They're breaking formation, trying to identify the threat. But breaking formation only made things worse for the Velpak. As their ships scattered, they triggered more mines hidden throughout the system. Every direction they turned led to more explosions, more destroyed vessels, more confusion and panic. "This is impossible," came an alien transmission that Hyunwoo translated. "The entire system is weaponized. How can primitives possess such capabilities?" So, Jin smiled grimly. The aliens still didn't understand humans. They kept using words like primitive and livestock, even as their extermination fleet was being torn apart by human ingenuity. "Launch the hunter packs," So-Jin ordered. From hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, small groups of human ships emerged. These weren't the converted civilian vessels that made up most of humanity's fleet. These were purpose-built warships, designed for one specific mission: psychological warfare on a galactic scale. Each hunter pack consisted of 3 ships working together. Their job wasn't to win battles through superior firepower. Their job was to traumatize alien crews so badly that survivors would never recover from the experience. "Hunter Pack Alpha engaging Alien Formation 7, reported Captain Jae-ho, who now commanded one of the specialized warfare vessels. "Beginning psychological assault protocols. What happened next would become legend among the resistance movements that would soon spring up across the galaxy. The human ships didn't just attack the alien vessels. They broadcast human war cries, human music, human poetry about fighting to the death. They showed the aliens videos of human children learning to fight, human elderly volunteering for suicide missions, human families choosing to die together rather than be separated. The aliens are requesting mercy, Hyun-woo reported, his voice filled with amazement. Multiple ships are surrendering rather than face continued psychological assault. That had never happened before in Veltak military history. Their soldiers were trained to fight until ordered to retreat, but they had no protocols for dealing with enemies who attacked their minds as well as their bodies. General, long-range sensors are detecting something else, Yujin called out. More ships approaching from outside the system. Sojin felt her heart sink. Reinforcements? No, General. These ships aren't Veltak. They're broadcasting identification codes from 12 different species. The main display screen showed the new arrivals. Ships of various designs and sizes, all moving toward Earth. Sojin prepared for the worst. Perhaps other alien species were coming to help the Veltak finish humanity's destruction. Then Hyun-woo started laughing. General, you need to hear this transmission, he said, playing an audio message translated into English. This is Fleet Commander Zaltek of the Corvani Republic. We have monitored Veltak harvest operations for centuries, waiting for someone to show us how to fight back. We offer our ships and crews to the humans of Earth. Teach us how to be apex predators. Similar messages came from the other approaching fleets. Species that had been conquered or threatened by the Veltak were arriving, to learn from humanity's example. How many ships? Sojin asked. Over 3,000, Dongmin reported. Representatives from every species in this part of the galaxy. Sojin realized what was happening. Humanity's resistance had inspired a galactic rebellion. Species that had lived in fear of the Veltak for millennia were finally ready to fight back. All Allied vessels, this is General Kim of Earth Defense Command, Sojin broadcast to the approaching fleets. Welcome to the revolution. The battle continued for 18 hours. By the end, the Veltak extermination fleet had been completely destroyed. Not a single alien ship escaped to report back to their homeworld. But more importantly, 12 different species had learned that the Veltak could be beaten. Dr. Park, prepare a message for broadcast across the galaxy, Sojin ordered. What should it say? Hyun-woo asked. Sojin looked at the tactical display, showing the debris of the Veltak fleet scattered across the solar system. Tell them that Earth is not a harvest world. Earth is the home of apex predators, and we are now actively hunting anyone who threatens peaceful species. The message was broadcast on every frequency, translated into every known galactic language. Within days, it reached every corner of the galaxy where the Veltak held power. The response was immediate. Rebellion broke out on dozens of worlds as conquered species followed humanity's example. The Veltak Dominion, which had ruled through fear for thousands of years, suddenly found themselves fighting wars on 100 different fronts. What's our next move? Tae-young asked. Sojin looked at the star charts showing Veltak territory. We hunt them down. Every ship, every base, every world that supported their harvesting operations. We show the galaxy that apex predators don't stop hunting until the threat is eliminated. Mi-young Choi, who had spent months preparing for diplomatic contact with alien species, walked up to Sojin with a proposal. General, we're receiving requests from resistance movements across the galaxy. They want human advisors, human weapons, human tactics. Give them everything they need, Sojin replied. The Veltak wanted to harvest humanity. Instead, humanity is going to harvest their entire empire. 6 months later, the Veltak Dominion had collapsed completely. Their military was scattered, their government was in exile, and their former subjects were free. Humanity had not only survived first contact with a hostile alien civilization, they had liberated half the galaxy. But the most important change was in how other species saw themselves. The galaxy had learned that being conquered was a choice, not an inevitable fate. They had learned that apex predators could be made, not just born.